Yeah. So I think, as you know, we can take the concept or my way of thinking, of working, or just my way of being in the world, and about art. I think I took at the very beginning, that means 6-7 years ago, a dimension, a perspective, which is very difficult to see at the beginning. That means a change almost every time. And I call them like work with inside an invisible context of place. That means I don't measure every time measure the larger and the deeper and the height of space and which kind of color of space. But I found what is interesting is if we say this is the space and we put artwork inside, so the space is the context of the artwork. But what I'm interested in is what is the context for the space. So just like the universal, multiple layer of context. So the context CCA for me it's not 100 meter square space. It's in CCA, it's in Japan, it's in Asia, and it's a lot of things. And by chance, coincidence, finally here it's one of the important cradle of Japanese, steel and metal production. So when I, went there with Nobio to pick up the object, I was conscious that which comes as if I know that before. I can probably do another kind of work, wooden work, for example, just with wood. And this time the frame is metal, all the garbage stuff we can pick up from the metal garbage center and so on. So it's so fantastic, such a kind of coincidence. But of course, the initial idea was not come from really from which kind of production of the city. But I think you are reason to mention that I do such a kind of project in different countries. But at the beginning, the people cannot understand this young guy or this guy, Chinese guy, every show we find, it's interesting, but never we can follow the real logical. That's a logical way. And multiple logical, we cannot say, especially I think I had a lot of problem with the gallerist and merchant, For example, I only did my first Parisian, gallery show after 8-9 years I live in Paris. So it's really, it's very meaningful, this kind of book. But now, I hope especially after this book, and the people little by little know I take a long march, just like a Chinese long march. It's in this way very Chinese, I take, it's kind of way of thinking indirectly. I mean, if there's an object here, I should go there. It's so interesting to take a very difficult way to go there, then straightforward. With a car and very easy way, with a lot of money. So I think I took this way. I will take also this way for attending some point I want to do. So I think now the opinion is changed also. A lot of people change their opinion, or from the worse to better, or from even the better to worse. That's no important. I think what I'm interested in is the critical. That means the public opinion or professional opinion will be changing with the changement of my work. That's both sides will change. Nothing fixed, nothing just like in China we said the security. How to say in English? Security. They will put the dead body inside the box. Coffin. We said the real definitive opinion, we should have to close the cover of the coffin about of one person. So I think we can from 60 years old to learn the trumpet, and nothing later, nothing time is always this. I think Buddhist has a wonderful two phrases about time. One is, no one day which is better than another day. And the second phrase is, the meaning of life is just one day after another. So in this case, we take our times to do something. And so I'm not hurried at all. And I consider myself always like a very young artist. And this is my, my attitude or my strategy. That means put myself in a not too much comfortable situation or attitude. Not play, something. Oh, I have already some experiences of my problem. Or I try to, always learn the new things. I said this morning, if I stay in Japan 1 year or 2 years, I will absolutely learn the language. And this is essential thing, I think. And I talked in the last part of my book, I will learn Spanish. Because Spanish, you have a whole American Latina. And you don't miss the communicate with the one quarter people. But I think about Asia country, and it's question to establish our second tradition, second history, second tradition. We talked about with curator from the Kyoto Museum, because this is a very important thing. Japan has in somehow established your own second tradition in some way, but it was not becoming a continental phenomenon, and probably there were only one country became very strong economically, and also with all the we talk about Japanese is the white people, such a kind of mentality and so on. So Japan, the situation of Japan was relatively isolated from all the rest of Asia's country. But now, fortunately, it's changing a lot, especially with the big changement of China also. So now that is why in the proposal I wrote this area not only become a big issue, power even in establishing another center in relation to the Western center, but also as an artist, Chinese artist or Asian artist, we should really be conscious that here is an important territory to make the confrontation between the Western and Eastern as well. There's no pure Asia. There's no impossible. If somebody really want to find the pure Asia, just do the tea ceremony and live in Buddhist temple. It's out of question.
It's always being in arts world like us, from Asian countries. We always have certain kind of question about what we've been talking about. This is we never forget about it. We always come to the point that every time we do something, even like we do organizing exhibition, doing something in Europe, America, always come to this point. That's not problem, but it's more like what can I say? This kind of talking, discussion comes out.
So I think at least I have the impression that the international member, the committee, visibly most of them is Western people. But if we look at closely, the most of the people in the international committee is the Western people who have a very strong conscience about their own problem. That means that's the people who want to open their own mind, open their own national or continental culture to another culture and so on. So I think it's very good to invite the Western people who is very open who take much consideration about another continental culture, another culture, and so on. And also the Asian artists who have some different experience, and also the open mind with the world. So in this case, I think it's boring to talk about today the pure position or anti-American or anti-Western and so on, because behind anti, what's the real position? And every time we, in China, it's always like the famous writer or artist, is what kind of person? It's just the government party, the Communist Party would like to critique them nationally, and finally become most famous, most popular. That means once we really want to against them, criticism, you see, just to make it more strong. It's that is why the simply against Western or American or something like this doesn't mean anything. We try to find our own position. That's all. That's all.
But actually, if we look at the reality, for example, for any Asian artist or any curator, they try to, whenever they are in the Western world, they try to understand the position, both where we come from, and also where we are. But this kind of idea never happens from any artist, curator come from the Western world, I think.
Of course, because
so
it's not their main issue.
Yeah.
It's not really their preoccupation. Yeah. For example, the most of the Western curator or critic who make trip in the African or Asia, American Latin, the idea is to find the artist, discover. That means a discovery. So this is and we can understand immediately everything because the most the non-Western artists or people go to the Western country. It's also some kind of discovery, discovery, but in the sense of learning, of penetrating another country and so on, especially from language. You look at we three speak English,
yes,
and sometimes French and so on. But how many Western people who visit here speak Japanese or Chinese? That means a lot of things. That's the lowest level. It's a desire of surviving. Language is something like this. I mean, it's to try to find a bedroom, to find a place for sleeping. And if you want to work somewhere, or just learn something, and you should find this space for sleeping. It's the language. So if one have no such kind of problem, 5-star hotel, so they have no this kind of desire or necessity of surviving about language. So all people should be bilingual, at least. This is I think this is I hope I use the word, of course it's only relation to westernization I talk about during the discussion, westernization, and sometimes it's very dangerous to talk about such kind of issue. But my use of this word just in relation to the center, the dominant psychological position in the Western people, because yes, Japan, yes, the highway, yes, the subway, yes, the cars, but originally come from us. You understand? So it's always like this. If another non-Western country become very strong, they just say, they copy word, they make better than our original version. It's the position. So what I mean is the second tradition in Asia or in Western world, it's just such kind of amazing, strange, mixed and marriage. How really finally to find another kind of way of living and Mandarin things. I think this is. But of course, it's still once more we need time. We need the experience. We need experience.
And hopefully not marriage, because marriage sometimes break up. So I hope that they penetrate each other.
No. Have the children without marriage. Yeah, that means have some interesting things, but without marriage.
Without marriage.
Yeah.
Sounds better.
Yeah. So I think Asia should be kind of things like this. Where we knew a lot of métissage, the hybrid children. It's a real life. It's a real
hybrid children.
Yeah, hybrid children.
New word.
Yeah.
Hybrid children.
Hybrid children, yes. And without marriage, that means very free.
Yeah.
And without making serious problem with.
Also, they naturally and politically belongs to both worlds.
Yeah.
That's very important. Not politically divided by one way. But both.
Yeah.
Both contexts.
And they have two genes too. Yeah.
When I remember when I was in China, there was this big tension between China and Russia. So the problem is, these two big countries, and at the level of the population or number of the soldiers, Chinese much more than Russia. But at the level of the power or of the nuclear weapon and so on, Russia much more strong than China. But why nothing really happened between these two countries, even though there's some conflict and so on? Because just we are too close. That means too close. The Chinese strategy at that moment, once they want to do something, we just move people in their territory. Once moving territory mixed, they cannot make the bomb in their own territory.
It's really all the strategy to survive.
That means. So the hybrid children, something like this. It's too close, too mixed. You cannot really.
I think this should be the best artistic project for this kind of issue.
Also, like the best issue for the political peace, keeping peace in the world.
Of course.
Hybrid children.
Yeah, hybrid children. Each is 50 strokes on Yeah, each. That's my next project for the Tel Aviv Museum.
Tel Aviv Museum.